What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel, where we speak the truth, we're honest, we give our takes on the Miami Dolphins. This team, I can't get them off my mind, man. It's 24/7 that I'm thinking about this team and everything that's going wrong with this team, and the CVS laundry list report of injuries that happened yesterday before the Bills game on Sunday. I'm not even going to talk about the injury report because I'm saving that for the preview tomorrow. But my God, everything that you can think about that's going on in Dolphins Twitter, it's going downhill. This team is going downhill. Dolphins Twitter is going downhill. It's an absolute mess right now. I can't keep this team off my mind 24/7. It's impossible. So what we're going to do today, because I'm not going to have time to talk about this tomorrow. This is going to be a very short video. We're going to go over playoff scenarios going into Week 18, which there's four. There's four playoff scenarios for the Miami Dolphins. I got it all in my head. And then we are going to talk about Stephen A. Smith, because Stephen A. Smith has Dolphins Twitter once again all up in arms, and these people, man, they just hate the national media. And yeah, I have too, but what Stephen A. Smith said today, he's actually not wrong. So I guess we could start off with that first. Let's just go over that, talk about it. Let me find this. Stephen Ace. Okay, there we go. Cool. So, this is what Stephen A. Smith said today on First Take. They were talking about the game between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. And, actually, I'm going to do it under this account. Alright, here we go. This is what Stephen A. Smith had to say today. We'll talk about it for a little bit. He said on First Take, "I'm hoping the Dolphins get their ass kicked. I'm sick of them. I am sick of the Miami Dolphins. Could you go someplace away from South Beach and act like you know how to play football?" So that's what he said today on First Take. And I mean, folks, yeah, the Miami Dolphins got a nice win over the Dallas Cowboys at home to clinch the playoffs, but the Miami Dolphins have not proven themselves on the road. Now, granted, they are home Sunday night against the Buffalo Bills, but they are banged up. They are going into this game on crutches. I will talk more about that tomorrow, because I'm saving the Bills-Dolphins game particularly for tomorrow. But you look at every big road spot that the Miami Dolphins have gone to this year, they've absolutely pooped the bed in every single game. The first big road test was in Buffalo, Week 4, after they had just put up 70 points, and they went into Buffalo and they lost by 4 touchdowns. That game was ugly. That was an ugly game. And then they go to Philly a couple weeks later for Sunday Night Football. Excuse me. Excuse me again. And then a couple weeks later, they go to Philly for Sunday Night Football. And while, yes, it was close in the third quarter, at one point in this game, the Miami Dolphins had them tied 17-17. They still pooped the bed. 14-0 run for the Eagles. Tua throws a pick in the end zone. Doesn't matter if it should have been a penalty or not. He threw a pick when they were driving down the end zone. Tyreek Hill is dropping touchdowns. The penalties, all that with the ref that night. That was a disaster. That was a disastrous ending in Philly, where you had the game, you had a chance. Once Jerome Baker got that pick six, tied the game 17-17, you had a chance, and again, they blew it. Let's talk about the Germany game. The game in Germany against the Kansas City Chiefs. They flat out did not show up in the first half. They just did not show up in the first half, down 21-0 going into halftime. And Tyreek just blatantly costed the team the game with that fumble 50 seconds right before halftime. If Tyreek doesn't fumble that football and the Dolphins don't score or they get a field goal before halftime, guess what, folks? They win that game in Germany based off how the defense performed in the second half. Because of that fumble, that play changed the entire game, and the Chiefs went on to win that game 21-14. And then this past Sunday, the biggest game of the season for the Miami Dolphins against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. They go out there and they get 50 burgered. They looked like they didn't even prepare for this week's game against the Baltimore Ravens. Last week's game against the Baltimore Ravens. One of the main keys I said was containing Lamar Jackson, making him throw from the pocket. Bro, he could have been sitting there. He could have been having a drink, reading a book, anything, and he would still have time in the pocket because the defensive line could not get home to Lamar Jackson. And then when he looked up, oh shit, Zay Flowers is wide open down the field. He just burned Eli Apple. Let me get him the ball. 75-yard touchdown. Lamar Jackson absolutely carved up the Miami Dolphins in that game last week. And Stephen A. Smith, there's nothing wrong that he said. There's nothing wrong that he said on First Take. The Dolphins go on the road and they poop the bed. And guess what, folks? We're about to get into the playoff scenarios, because if the Dolphins lose to the Buffalo Bills, oh boy, oh boy, they're going on the road to start Wild Card Weekend. After this team, after this fan base was calling them Super Bowl contenders when they were 9-3, they might be going on the road, round one of the playoffs, and finishing off the season 2-3. Yikes. If the Dolphins... It's funny. If the Dolphins had just beaten the Titans, that team stinks. That team is horrible. If the Dolphins had just beaten the Titans at home on Monday Night Football, if one of those field goals are touchdowns, guess what? The Dolphins are sitting their starters this week with the AFC East and the number 2 seed already wrapped up. The Dolphins are sitting their starters going into this week. But nope, they lost to the Titans. They blew a 14-point lead with 3 minutes to go, and now they brung this upon themselves. And I'll get more into that tomorrow, how the Dolphins brung this game upon themselves in that game against the Titans, which, whether you hate it or not, that game changed the entire season for the Dolphins. But let's go over these 4 scenarios in case you guys don't know. The Dolphins can only get the 2 seed or the 6 seed going into the playoffs next week. And this is how it works. If the Dolphins, and I'm speaking out my ass because the last scenario is probably the most likely scenario. So, but I just have to say this because this is the facts. If the Dolphins beat the Bills, which they're underdogged by 3 points, Josh Allen has owned the Dolphins his entire career. If the Dolphins beat the Bills and either the Jaguars or the Steelers lose, both of them don't have to lose. One of them has to lose. If either of them lose, the Bills are in the playoffs. So even if the Dolphins beat the Bills, guess who they're going to be hosting on Wild Card Weekend? The Buffalo Bills. That's not good at all. Let's talk about the next scenario. If the Dolphins beat the Bills and the Steelers lose and the Jaguars lose, the Dolphins are gonna wait. Yeah. If the Jaguars lose and the Steelers lose and the Dolphins beat the Bills, then the Dolphins are going to be hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars round 1 in the playoffs. You'll be seeing Trevor Lawrence versus Tua Tagovailoa. I highly doubt that happens. Third scenario. This one's very simple, and it very well could happen. Will it happen? No. The Dolphins beat the Bills, and the Steelers beat the Ravens. The Bills are home, and the Steelers are in the playoffs, and the Dolphins are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, round 1 of the playoffs. And then this is the last scenario. And this is probably the more likely scenario, in my opinion. If the Bills beat the Dolphins, the Bills are the number 2 seed, and the Dolphins are going to Kansas City, round 1 of the playoffs. If I look at the temperature in Kansas City next week, it's going to be in the low 20s next weekend. So it's going to be a cold wild card weekend for the Miami Dolphins. So I just want to come on here, make a short video, because I'm not going to be talking about this stuff tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be mostly about how the Dolphins got themselves in this situation. Probably do a little pep talk at the end of the video. Is that going to help? Probably not. And oh my God, this team stands no chance. And then we'll break down the game tomorrow, like we do every week. So I'm out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll have the preview and then the post-game recap video for this game tomorrow. Post-game recap video Sunday night. And by 11:30, we will know who the Miami Dolphins are going to be facing wild card weekend. So be sure to subscribe, comment down below, hit the like button if you'd like to hear from me. Follow me on Twitter, Conlon_Joseph. I will see you guys tomorrow for the preview. Have a good one. Stay safe, and as always, stay classy. I'm out. Peace.